Good evening, I'm Talia Ricci. A 28-year-old man has died after a shooting in Scarborough last night. Police are investigating it as a homicide. Brittany Billette has the latest.
Bullet holes were left behind from the shooting. It happened at this Shell gas station by Ellesmere and Warden at around 10:20 p.m. on Saturday. Police are identifying the victim as Sulakshan Selvasingham, a 28-year-old from Pickering.
41 Division officers received a call for a sound of gunshots. They were advised there's potentially a shooting here behind me at the gas station behind me. Officers attended and found an individual suffering from gunshot wounds.
In a news release, police said Selvasingham was brought to a local hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Officers aren't saying whether the shooting was targeted or how many suspects they're looking for. They say a shooter fired at Selvasingham's car and then fled the scene in a vehicle. On Sunday, people who knew Selvasingham came out to lay flowers for him. I spoke to a couple who said they were friends with him. They said he was an energetic, fun person who loved cars and racing. They said they don't understand why someone would want to hurt him. I also spoke to people in the area about what they thought about what happened.
It's so sad as a woman, as a mother. It's so sad to see somebody shot somebody. It's so bad for me. My concern is it's not supposed to be happening.
It's honestly crazy living in Toronto and then hearing like all the negativity and like all the violence that's happening. Like I'm actually scared of it sometimes, but I try not to let it bother me.
Police have yet to release information on the suspect, but they're asking anyone who has seen or heard anything to contact Crime Stoppers. Brittany Billette, CBC News, Toronto.
A woman is dead after a stabbing in Mississauga last night.
So what we believe right now is that the victim and the suspect are known to one another. The nature of that relationship is still under investigation as it's pretty early. So at this point, investigators are confident this is an isolated incident. Right, so we believe that the vehicles that are still here are somehow related, but we don't know in what capacity yet.
It happened in the parking lot of St. Elizabeth Seton Elementary School in the Glen Erin and Windwood Drive area. Peel police say they responded to reports of a fight around 5:30. A woman was found with stab wounds and pronounced dead at the scene. A man was taken into custody not so far from the scene. And in Scarborough, a man has died after his motorcycle crashed in a car overnight. It happened in the area of Brimley Road and Wenlock Gate. The driver of the motorcycle was rushed to hospital where he was later pronounced dead. A female passenger on the motorcycle suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Police say an investigation is ongoing. And we're learning more details this weekend after a family of 4 was found dead last month inside their home in the small community of Harrow, Ontario. Police now describing the deaths of a mother and her 2 children as a case of intimate partner violence.
Post-mortem examinations have determined the cause of death as gunshot wounds. 41-year-old Carly Standard Walsh, 13-year-old Madison Walsh, and 8-year-old Hunter Walsh. The cause of death for 42-year-old Stephen Walsh has been determined as a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Police discovered the bodies after receiving requests to check on the well-being of a person at the home. A funeral was held for 41-year-old Carly Walsh, her 13-year-old daughter Madison, and 8-year-old son Hunter on Tuesday. The incident has shaken the small community, who came together 2 weeks ago to honor and remember the family. And OPP warn intimate partner violence continues to be a huge issue in the province. If you or someone you know is struggling, these are some of the resources available. After nearly 8 weeks of protesting on the University of Waterloo campus, members of Occupy U Waterloo have dismantled their pro-Palestinian encampment. This comes after the university began legal proceedings seeking an injunction to end the encampment and launched a lawsuit against participants seeking $1.5 million in damages. Protesters say they decided to voluntarily decamp. In a statement, the university says it agreed to withdraw its claim once the encampment was vacated.
We think that there are better places to direct our energy. We've never seen this level of mobilization and political consciousness around the ongoing genocide of Palestine on UW campus ever. And we have a lot coming in the future.
Organizers of the encampment say its goal has been to persuade the university to divest from any company that supports Israel as the war in Gaza continues. Last month, the university agreed to disclose investment information, something protesters called a win. Similar encampments have also ended at McMaster University in Hamilton and at the University of Toronto. Today marks exactly 9 months since the Israel-Hamas war started. Hamas stormed Israel, killing more than 1,000 Israelis and taking more than 200 hostages. Families of Israeli hostages in Toronto held a rally earlier today to mark the event and demand the release of the remaining hostages.
I think that people around the world need to remember that this happened on October 7th, 9 months ago, but it is still happening today to my family and to Omer and the rest of the hostages and the hostages' families. It's still happening. October the 7th is a really, really long day that is still happening 9 months later, and people have moved on, and they can't move on.
She says her American-born cousin Omer was captured on October 7th. Her family has no information on his condition or whereabouts, but she remains positive and hopeful he'll return home. Tropical storm Beryl is expected to hit the Texas coast early tomorrow, likely strengthened again to a hurricane. It's been a weekend of preparations along the storm's expected path. Vanessa Lee has the latest.
Houston already being pounded with heavy rain as the outer bands of Beryl began lashing coastal communities, flooding streets and raising anxiety levels.
It will be a deadly storm.
Texas officials are warning people to not underestimate Beryl. After weakening as it struck other countries, the monster storm has regained its strength 3 times in the past week, a trend experts say will continue.
We could see the Category 2 last minute at landfall, so we're stressing the people to be prepared for even worse impact than what the forecast may show.
Beryl brings a risk of damaging winds and a storm surge of close to 2 meters above ground level. At 1 meter, it can swamp evacuation routes and cause cars to start floating. At 2 meters, debris and downed power lines are pushed into the rising water.
That last minute strengthening is what we're most worried about. It'll lead to more impactful, devastating winds, storm surge.
People in coastal areas are being urged to evacuate, though some insist on staying. So many have done whatever they can to prepare and protect their homes, but they know firsthand their efforts could be in vain. Beryl is poised to be the latest in a line of destructive hurricanes to hit the Lone Star State.
This place is still recovering from Harvey.
Beryl is the earliest storm to develop into a Category 5 hurricane in the Atlantic. Already, it has killed at least 11 people across the Caribbean. The death toll is expected to rise as communications are restored. Those who survived are grappling with all they've lost.
I don't have nowhere to turn to. Food, shelter. They come and say, that's my life gone. How about my life gone?
With a combination of record-breaking temperatures in the Atlantic Ocean and shifting weather patterns, experts are projecting 17 to 25 storms this season, the most ever forecasted. Vanessa Lee, CBC News, Montreal.
Sophia joins us now with the first look at your forecast, and you've been keeping a close eye on this storm and how it might play a role into our forecast here this week.
Yeah, still a tropical storm due to strengthen into a hurricane anytime between now and the pre-dawn hours of Monday. Talia, we knew this Atlantic hurricane season was going to be a potent one. You heard there, sea surface temperatures in the Atlantic are where they normally are during the peak of the hurricane season. We're still 2 months away from that. And Beryl has been breaking records right out of the gate. First landfall into the Lesser Antilles as a Category 4 hurricane. Second landfall into the Yucatan Peninsula as a Category 2 hurricane. And millions of Americans right now are watching as the outer bands are already lashing onto the Texas shoreline. Millions of Texans under storm surge, hurricane, and tropical storm warnings for wave heights that could be anywhere from 1 to 2 meters. Locally, up to 200 millimeters of rainfall is still expected. Now watch the track of Hurricane Beryl and the remnants of this tropical system as we play this north through the Mississippi River Valley and into the Ohio River Valley and through, yes, the Great Lakes Basin, folks. Here is the backstory. Big heat dome, big ridge of high pressure into the west. It's bringing anomalous, record-breaking, and even dangerous heat to the west. But what goes up must come down. Look at this really deep trough. It's deep enough to pick up the remnant moisture of Beryl and scoop it up and bring it right along that jet stream track to us Wednesday into Thursday. Yes, through East Texas Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. If models continue to refine, this could bring localized flooding and some severe storms to our neck of the woods. We're not going to be getting a hurricane, but we're getting this moisture-laden remnants of this system. Again, the track could fall a little bit farther south, but it's not going to be a free and easy and breezy week. Monday, storms up to the north, unrelated to Beryl. Towards the south, we are watching some heat come into play. Humidex values for some of you around the GTA and the Golden Horseshoe are into the mid-30s again. We'll talk about the heat and then when to expect the active weather associated with Beryl in the long range.
Thanks, Sophia.
You're welcome.
Doctors in Ontario's cottage country are fighting back against a plan to redevelop hospitals in their region. Physicians in South Muskoka say it will impact care in the area for generations to come. Lane Harrison has more.
More than 50 local doctors have signed a July 1st letter criticizing plans to redevelop 2 area hospitals. They say current plans would reduce hospital beds in the town of Bracebridge while increasing them in the town of Huntsville, forcing patients to travel between the two.
It increases mortality. When you're transporting people who are very sick, who may be on ventilation, that is a recipe for having poor outcomes. And so we have deep concerns about that. It's not being transferred from one side of a city to another side of the city. It's being transferred through Northern Ontario on highways with moose and deer and snowstorms. It's not a straightforward transfer process.
There are also concerns about physician retention.
Finding doctors who want to work in such a small hospital is going to be challenging. Finding emergency doctors who want to work in an emergency department where they have to wait for their patients to be transported to the next town over could be a challenge.
The health authority says 90% of the nearly $1 billion project is being funded by the government, with another $225 million coming from local communities. Bracebridge is committing $10 million to the redevelopment, but its town council will soon vote on looking at putting restrictions on those funds.
I think what we're hoping is that we'll get a little bit more time and some more consultation to give time to the model and make sure that the model works for both sites, both the north and the south side.
The health authority says there will be different services in Huntsville and Bracebridge, so people from both areas will have to travel for health care. Dr. John Simpson says this proposal is moving along because it's one the province will approve.
The total number of beds is not just at one site, it's across the 2 sites. So when we look at the model as a Muskoka model, the number of beds are actually increasing. We're actually going to have more intensive care beds across Muskoka in the new model, which is a huge plus and means less travel for our critically sick and critically ill, where we'd have to transfer them out of the region.
The regional authority, Muskoka Algonquin Healthcare, also stresses that consultation is far from over. Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
Exit polls indicate that France has elected a minority parliament, and topping the results is not the controversial National Rally Party as expected, but the leftist coalition. Margaret Evans reports.
It was here, to the battle-scarred emblem of the French Republic, that those celebrating flocked after the exit polls were announced. The statue of Marianne and the entire square soon enveloped by cheering crowds and street vendors, quick to see an opportunity when it arrives. There was also relief for those on the French left.
I've just been so stressed, and it's just so exciting. I'm in shock in a positive way, but this is such an unexpected result.
And it's created expectations in this crowd that Emmanuel Macron will now have to look to the left for France's next prime minister. There is little sympathy for the French president or his decision to call a snap election in the first place.
He chose to do that, so he played a bad game.
The people here have staved off what they see as the immediate threat to their country. But this isn't all of France, and what comes next is still unclear.
Leftist and centrist parties were able to reverse last week's first-round win for Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally by forging strategic alliances, knocking her party into third place. Macron's centrist bloc came second, not enough for his gamble to have paid off. The remaining years of his presidency about to become a lot more difficult with an even more antagonistic parliament.
La percée la plus importante de toute son histoire.
National Rally's president, Jordan Bardella, called the result the most important breakthrough in the party's history. National Rally is a modern version of the National Front, founded by Le Pen's father, a Holocaust denier. She's worked to clean up its image as a xenophobic party and set her sights on the 2027 presidential election. A sobering possibility for those in the square who say the far right has come too close to power.
I'm not celebrating because I know what it would mean if it did pass today, so I can't really feel happy.
Margaret Evans, CBC News, Paris.
Pressure to withdraw from the U.S. presidential race mounted today on Joe Biden. There were more statements from Democrats expressing uncertainty on his ability to continue, and they had a heightened sense of urgency. Katie Simpson reports.
In person, on the ground, old-fashioned stumping. This is how President Joe Biden is trying to get his re-election campaign back on track.
Without further ado, I wanted to introduce President Joe Biden.
Heading into the swing state of Pennsylvania for some desperately needed energy.
There is only one person in the country that's ever kicked Trump's ass in an election, and that is your president.
The effort may be too little, too late, as calls get louder for Biden to exit the race.
It's important to be loyal, but part of being loyal is being honest. And I think we have to be honest to each other of just how difficult of a situation this is.
Biden needs to quit, according to at least 4 senior House Democrats who reportedly held a private strategy call Sunday. And a group of Democratic senators will meet Monday as they prepare to ask Biden to bow out. After his shaky performance in the first presidential debate, Biden has failed to stem concern about his age and mental fitness, even after multiple unscripted events, including an interview with ABC News.
Personally, I love Joe Biden. I don't know that the interview on Friday night did enough to answer those questions. And so I think this week is going to be absolutely critical. I think the president needs to do more.
Biden's allies are urging him to think about what's best for the country and party.
He's obviously talked to his family about this, and that's important. But he should seek out people with some distance and objectivity.
For now, at least, Biden insists he's not going anywhere.
We're on the cusp of getting so much done. I really mean it. And with your help, I know we have your help. With my help, helping us working together, we're going to get a hell of a lot done for the American people.
Biden may sound somewhat optimistic, but he's in for a very difficult week. Congress returns, so lawmakers will be here in D.C. There's the growing number of House Democrats telling their leader, Hakeem Jeffries, they think Biden needs to step down. And then you've got the senators, led by Democrat Mark Warner, hatching a plot to ask Biden to leave. Most of the public pushback from the high-profile Democrats has been polite so far, tiptoeing around Biden to give him space out of respect. As concern about his ability to win and lead gets bigger and more intense, that polite facade could disappear quickly. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
A community is fundraising for the 3rd year in a row to help out their neighbor who has a rare disease. Ethan Schachter has a condition that affects his muscles, including those needed for breathing and eating. Ethan's mom says in just over 2 years, the community has raised over $300,000.
See 16 houses come together in a 2-week period to support the event. Tons of bakeries putting forward baked goods for sale. The potters at the Jewish Community Center coming together to sell their work, auction items being donated. It's amazing. It's humbling and beautiful.
Most kids with this condition don't live past 2 years, but Ethan recently celebrated his 3rd birthday. The fundraiser happened earlier today throughout Bathurst Manor in Toronto. All proceeds go to the Niemann Myopathy Research at Sick Kids. And that's a live look at Toronto this hour. Environment Canada has issued a heat warning for most of the GTA starting tomorrow, feeling somewhere between 35 to 38. Sophia joins us now with more on what we can expect this week.
Yeah, we're on the lower cusp of that heat warning, but still sticky enough for the next couple days that warning criteria was triggered around the Gorlin Horseshoe. I'll show you that in just a moment. Clear night right night. It's that southerly flow, though, that is coming up. The onset of this heat warning that will bring us into that sticky, muggy territory. Monday afternoon into the 30s, feeling into the mid-30s, all around the region, all the way really from Niagara Falls up to the Pickering area. The similar conditions stick around for Tuesday. Here's a look at that heat warning all the way from Oshawa again to St. Catharines within that warning criteria. It's that southerly flow, and that inland area will be a little bit warmer. Cooler for those of you to the north and east portion of the province, cooler with the chance of storms as well. Heavy rain and large hail as this frontal system begins to sag south. Some pretty beefy storms could come through your neck of the woods, anywhere from Sault Ste. Marie up to the Nickel Belt into Timmins. And then we will get a taste of that active weather as it sinks south come Tuesday. Wednesday, we flash forward to midweek, and that's when we have, again, the remnant moisture, remnant low pressure system of that hurricane barrel coming in. Outer ends of that moisture come in on Wednesday. Again, we're not getting the hurricane. We are getting a destabilized atmosphere and potentially a ton of rain. If this track holds up, this could be anywhere from 50 to 75 millimeters of rainfall, along with some severe storms. Again, this track could be refined and shift further to the south. We still have a long way out to continue to watch how it arcs over to the Great Lakes Basin. As we head over to the end of this upcoming work week, we are looking at some cooler temperatures in the wake of that active and rainy weather. But remember, you have those 2 sticky days at the beginning of this upcoming work week, even more for some areas inland and further to the north and to the west. And some of you, especially into the nation's capital region, will have that remnant moisture with you for a few extra days right into next weekend. So not a free, easy, breezy week this week if you have the cottage or the dock booked like we had last week, but not too bad when it comes to temperatures once we get past this heat warning for the first 2 days this week. Talia.
Thanks for that, Sophia.
You're welcome.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Before we go, we'll take you to one of the many big festivals happening this weekend. Taste of Lawrence brings in big crowds every year with delicious food and fun entertainment. Good night.